Good morning. Join us in singing our opening song, Stand If You're Able. Good morning. So I want to welcome you all to the Louisville Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Vicky Jeter, and I'm here today as our special presenter because Reverend Carolyn and actually our practitioner Tammy are probably on their way back from Asilomar today, and I anticipate that they will have fabulous stories to share because many things have been shared on Facebook that indicate that that was an outstanding event for our larger community. So she'll be back next week. And now, shall we light the God candle? Gratitude to Miss Pat for standing in as Vanna. We light the candle as a representation symbolizing our knowing the one Spirit, omnipresence, divine creator of all, that is one and only one. And in this moment, we practice what we practice and we know what we know by remembering to breathe into that space that is unique to each one of us and yet common to all of humanity. When we look for where to find unity, we only need look so far as breathing and releasing and letting it be. And so for this day that is all about honoring all people, we begin here. I honor myself. I honor each and every person here physically present, each and every person who is participating virtually now or in the future. Welcome. Be welcome. By spirit, by us, by yourself. And so I call it good and very good, in great gratitude for the truth that sets us free. And I release it into the law that only says yes, and I let it be, and so it is.
Since I'm going right to the exact spot I'm supposed to be in, right, Vernon? Okay. And I'm going to thank you, Victoria, for a very nice opening.
You're welcome.
Unrehearsed, but I'm totally unrehearsed for this. Seems great.
Hi, I listened. I was meditating in the hallway. I didn't want to come down into the
Maybe you were going, that's okay. You wanna see a movie? Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? Okay, let's see, what do we have? Upcoming announcements? Oh, yeah. A cop pulled me over and said, papers. I yelled, scissors, and drove off. I thought that was, yeah, I thought that was very cute. That was very cute. Okay, and next we have Social Sunday next week. It's just around the corner, guys and gals. September 1st and till 2 will be there in force with a lot of books and so on and so forth for trading in and out. Okay. And our men's group continues to meet, and I find it always fun and enjoying, so I appreciate all the guys that have been showing up to that on a fairly regular basis. First Thursday of each month.
Is that here, the men's group?
No, actually, it goes between Steve, who is not here today, and my place.
So do you know which one the next one's going to be? Because
It's
we
at
have another
Steve's.
gentleman that might like to know.
Okay, yes, at Steve's place, and let's see, that would be next Thursday.
September 5th.
That's the one after that. So this next Thursday, we will have his address too, okay, and contact information.
Next Sunday.
We can't buy the apartment.
I'll give it.
Yeah.
Okay, oh, that'd be great, yeah. Okay. And if you want to just text me to Gordon Newton 1, gnewton1 at gmail.com, and you can just give me a reminder, and I'll shoot something back to you on it, okay? Great.
Gordon Newton 1.
We'll get you guys that information. It's all good.
Okay. And, okay, community visioning for our Center for Spiritual Living, first Saturday of every month, September 7th, 10 a.m. to 10:45, and contact Vicky. And Vicky, would you like to say something about that?
I would. I'd like to say a little bit more about that because this is the process that is the living practice of the class. It's also getting ready to start called Visioning Your Life. And y'all may remember we just finished a Visioning Your Life a few weeks ago, and so many people wanted to take that course that we have enough to just start another course right now. So on September the 17th, Visioning Your Life will start. It's virtual, it's online by Zoom, or you can even just call in on the phone. So if you're interested in taking an 8-week course that is about visioning your life and then participating in our actual visioning for our center. And when we say that the visioning that we do the first Saturday every month is for the center, everyone who's on that call is a part of the center. So you can come with your dream, you can come with your vision and make it a part of our vision. It's a fantastic process. It's a fantastic group that meets on Saturdays. So if you're interested, just let me know. We realize it's hard to catch that number on a screen like that, but I will absolutely put you on an email because I send out a reminder right before that Saturday. And so thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, Victoria. Okay, and we have join us for Louisville Center for Spiritual Living, family lunch, Dutch treat. Dutch treat? Who's Dutch? Why are we saying Dutch treat? That's like you pay for somebody else. Oh, no, everybody's on their own.
Yes.
Right, okay, great, I now got you. September 22nd after the service, and that's just a couple blocks away, isn't it?
Block and a half down.
About a
Yeah.
block and a half down the street. So just after the service, we're going to kind of all migrate, whoever would like to, down there, and it'll be whatever you want, because it's an open menu, I would imagine.
O'Shea's. It's a
O'Shea's.
wonderful Irish restaurant.
Yeah. And some of you may know it as O'Shea's off of Bardstown Road.
No,
No, not that one.
don't confuse people now, Gordon.
Okay, we don't want to confuse you, so it's off of this, it's the O'Shea's here, not in Louisville,
On Springs.
Yes,
on Spring Street.
like a block and a half up the street.
Yeah, okay.
Has that
Okay,
been open a while? I didn't even know there was one over here.
there's a picture of it right there. Practitioner of the day, Pat Ferguson. Meet Pat up front in the power shower for the group. That is just really too much. Confidential prayer by request. See any practitioner? Would you like to say anything about that?
No, I'll be there within 3 minutes after service is over. Right there.
For personal prayer support.
Great, okay. August affirmation, everybody together, please. As I turn my face to the sun, my shadows fall behind me. I am now conscious of my oneness with Spirit and its energy, enthusiasm, and vitality. Yes. Okay, great. Tell your story. I want to start off with a story. And in fact, I wasn't going to tell this one because I'd forgotten it for years. But as I was holding one of these instruments over here, I noticed that the pattern of dots on it reminded me of the birth of my first son. Now, why would I remember that? I mean, I don't know. It just seemed like it just came in. I know that his mom at that time had just lost a child in pregnancy. She got pregnant again, and so I guess I was thinking to reinforce the pregnancy as much as possible, I would find some real live relic. And I did. I found a real live relic in San Diego where we were at the time. It was from a small African tribe in East Africa, and it was called a fertility doll. And I guess apparently, true story, that the women would take this small doll carved out of wood and heavily beaded, put it around their abdomen throughout their pregnancies, and it's supposed to guarantee a healthy pregnancy and a healthy birth of the child. So I got that. Now, I don't know if that kind of stuff works or not, but I tell you what, it was a great pregnancy. Best kid, best thing I ever did was having that child. You know, and I know his mom feels the same way. So there's my story, and I'm sticking to it now. Who's next?
That is a wonderful cultural
Story, Gordon. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. So today, for honoring all people, if you have a story that you would like to share about a family tradition or another country that we might not know about, or a subculture of our country here that doesn't get much mention that you'd like to share, an experience that happened for you, this is the time you can share if you would like.
Okay, then.
I'll do one, I guess.
All right.
Cool.
It's not really my story, I guess. I was in 8th grade. We were on a mission trip to Kingston, Jamaica. It was a church group. It was called the Mustard Seed Foundation. Awesome group. And we would go there and help the, I guess in a lot of third world countries, it's considered like a curse or a sin to have a disabled child. And so this group would go around, and in Jamaica, for example, they would, like, if they had a deformed, disabled kid, they would do some pretty horrific. They would just like throw them in dumpsters and discard the child, like just drop them off, you know, get rid of the child. And so these orphanages would pop up, and they would take care of all these underprivileged children. And we went with my dad was a teacher at Presentation or Mercy Academy, and we went with all-girls schools, and like my dad and a couple chaperones and me, and we would go to these orphanages, do whatever they needed. Like one day we were building and painting a church. The next day we were just playing with the kids, helping feed, you know, because they were understaffed. So anything we could do, we were basically just there to help. And it was the happiest place I'd ever been. Like those kids, there was some kids that had no legs. There's this one kid that pushed himself around on a skateboard. There were I forget what it's called, but it's that the big head disease. It's very prevalent in third world countries where the kids' heads will grow. No, I don't think so. But there was this one girl, just to kind of go in line with this whole sensing metaphysical stuff, and I would go into this room with this one girl, and I would hold her hand every day and just like lay there and hold her hand. And she couldn't move. Their heads were so big they couldn't walk or move. They just were stuck laying there because their heads weighed them down. They would be infants. And she could sense every time I walked the hallway and I would get in the room, she could tell I was there, and she would shake and get all excited. It was really cool. But my dad scheduled this baseball game, and that was just a fond memory I have. It's not a great story. But those kids in a place you'd think would be as tragic as anywhere you'd ever been, they were like the happiest kids ever to be a part of. That was really neat.
Well, thank you. No,
Culturally, I thought it was interesting that
yeah.
as a culture, they
Well,
would
it's-
discard those kids. Those
Yeah,
children.
no, I didn't even know that, so thank you.
Yeah, it was neat.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, let's turn it over to you now. Pat first. That's right, the reading.
Yes, we have sacred reading now.
This morning's reading
goes along with our Human Family is the name of it. It's a poem by Maya Angelou, and it goes along with what we're talking about honoring all people. I note the obvious differences in the human family. Some of us are serious, some thrive on comedy, some declare their lives are lived as pure profundity, and others claim they really live the real reality. The variety of our skin tones can confuse, bemuse, delight, brown and pink and beige and purple, tan and blue and white. I've sailed upon the 7 seas and stopped in every land. I've seen the wonders of the world, not yet one common man. I know 10,000 women called Jane or Mary Jane, but I've never seen any two who really are the same. Mirror twins are different, although their features jibe, and lovers think quite different thoughts while laying side by side. We love and lose in China, we weep on England's moors, and laugh and moan in Ghana, and thrive on Spanish shores. We seek success in Finland, are born and die in Maine. In minor ways we differ, in major we're the same. I note the obvious differences between each sort and type, but we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. And so it is.
And so it is. Oh, my goodness.
So this is one of those times when one says, that act's a little hard to follow. That could be our whole talk right there. Forgot about special music. Thank you so, so much, Lo. Of course, that really makes it a hard act to follow. As you guys might be able to tell, I have had some anticipation about giving this talk. And I certainly appreciate everyone that makes these opportunities happen. So, those of you who have been here for a second time might recognize this. It's an interesting thing about what we're going to talk about in honoring today, because one of the things about honoring is there's honoring all around us, but sometimes it becomes so common to what we've seen, we don't actually touch into the feeling of it. And this is our opening screen here for Louisville Center for Spiritual Living. And I want to invite us to actually read it together this morning, because that's something we don't often do. Welcome, all sizes, all colors, all ages, all cultures, all sexes, all beliefs, all religions, all types, all people. Safe here. So welcome. And give yourself a moment to just really let that reverberate and let that in for yourself. How many ways does that speak to you? And I start there because the context of what it means in practice to honor all people begins with ourselves. And from a spiritual perspective, the cause of that is that in our own personal experience, the quality of life that we experience all begins with us. It's an inside-out job. And so when we look at the larger picture of our world on any level, and we see things that we'd like to change, one of the things to reflect on is, where am I at with this? If I want to see honoring in the world, where am I at with not only honoring what we'd like to see changed, but also honoring ourselves? And so one of the things that I would like to offer as an example of this is how many of you find it relatively easy if you hear there's going to be an opportunity to honor someone that you love? So, Vernon, can you move to the next slide for me? Okay, so notice the expression on this person's face. Does this person look like she is open and accepting there in that picture? Well, for those of you who may not know, this is the Reverend Cindy Shellum, and she is actually a member of this community. She's a distance member, but she started out as a practitioner, such as I am and Pat is, for this center, even though she lived at the time in Alabama. And she went from being a practitioner to becoming inspired to become a minister, and this picture was taken on her ordination day. There's a few levels to ordination, but that's what was happening for her this day. And so this is her radiance, and I chose this picture because she is really open to receive being honored. And by contrast, I had a story happen the other day in another community that I serve in. It's my pre and perinatal community, which is all about the journey coming into being human. The organizer, the head director of that program, is moving on. She's going to go do something else in her life. And she has impacted so many people. And she said, she put out a message that said, this next meeting will be my last meeting as our director. And then she just moved on. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. We are not just going to move on. And I wrote her back and I said, I really want to take a segment of this last meeting to honor you. And she wrote back and said she really didn't feel like we had the time because we had a lot to cover in that meeting. So I said, okay, well, if we're not going to be able to do it, you know, where we can share together, I just have to put this out there. And I just spelled out my honoring of her in an email, and I copied it to everybody in that group. And I just simply said, oh my goodness, you know, what you did in my life, and thusly what I have been able to do in other people's lives is a miracle. And so it just really needs to be honored. And the thing to recognize there is that when we honor events, when we honor people, when we honor either when something comes in, I loved your story, Gordon, and thank you so much for kicking off this piece of that with that story. Honor coming in, honor going out, it deepens the meaning of what we're doing here. And when things happen and we don't remember to consciously participate, to consciously honor, think of how much is missed if we had just, because then of course after I sent that email, then almost everyone was like, oh yeah, I want to say this, you know, and at least we all did it by email, you know. And then she came back and she said, I'm grateful for all of your reflections, and I'm so sorry that I started to say we're just not going to do that, you know. And so the next thing that this moves us to is it feels so easy to honor someone that we love, but how often do you give yourself back a reflection that says something like Cindy there, just for being who you are, just for showing up in your life? So can you just try this out? Just try taking a deep breath with me, and how often do you say, good for me? Now, you can actually do that right now if you'd like. You can try it out. Try saying it out loud, and we'll just share it together. Just say, good for me. Good for me. That's one way that I have learned to remember to honor myself. If I meet a goal that I have, or, you know, I stretch myself in a way that I didn't know I could, I just remember to say, good for me, I did good. And see, the thing is that makes room then. When you have that space within you that is expanded and kind of loosened up a little bit like taffy, you know, it's not about being egotistical. It's about what's our atmosphere inside. Are we able to receive? So then if you're used to occasionally saying, good for me, I can be celebrated, I can celebrate myself, and therefore I can more joyously show up to celebrate others, then if someone does want to honor you, it's not so hard to stand there and go, thank you. So if you will move to the next slide, Vernon. Now, the next level that I want to talk about is that culturally, there is more going on than just different countries and cultures. And I'm so glad both of the stories today talked about different countries. And just for a moment, I'll just show you here the one piece that's on the altar that you might not know exactly what it is. This is a prayer shawl from Machu Picchu. Someone went to Machu Picchu and brought this back to me as a gift. And so we use it for sacred services when we do women's circles. And what I want to shift to from there, from the national level of how we honor different cultures and different peoples, is there are subcultures. And what is interesting to know is that there are universal understandings culturally, and then there are understandings culturally that you have to have been a part of that group to really understand some of the symbology. But one of the things I want to point out here is that one of the reasons to do symbolic representation when you're honoring something, one of the reasons to do altar tables and things like that, is because symbology speaks a different language in the human system, okay? When we're communicating cognitively or when we're reading something, then one side of our brain is operating. When you express something in symbols or in artwork, you're working the other side of your brain. And that's really, really good for your spirit and soul system. Okay? So what do y'all think? What is this? Is there anywhere in the world you think somebody wouldn't know what that was? Right. That's a fairly universal symbol. And yet, you see it, and yeah, so both sides of your brain will correlate. As soon as you recognize it, then your thought process will go off, that represents disabled people. But it doesn't have to be just cognitive. You receive it in your heart just by the symbol. So go ahead to the next one, Vernon. Now, who knows what this symbol is? Right, that's the Gay Pride Rainbow, and the group that initiated, as far as I know, it might have been adopted, but I think it was initiated by an organization called PFLAG, which is Parents and Families of Gays and Lesbians. And one of the reasons why, at one time, it wasn't all those colors. But now, today, they have made it a rainbow because they're honoring that it's not something that you can put into a box. And so it's a whole rainbow of who and how we are. And there again, now some people don't yet understand what that symbol means, but for people who do know what it means, it's a way to honor without having to say anything. It's like saying namaste to a particular group without having to talk about it. Go ahead to the next one. Now, the next thing that this brings us to is talking about the universality of symbols. One universal symbol that shows up in a lot of different faiths and a lot of different walks of life is something that's in a circle. Okay, so who can tell me what the circle means? This is our teaching symbol. For those of you who may not know, this is a teaching symbol for teaching of our faith, which is called the science of mind. And who knows what the circle represents?
Everything infinity.
All. The circle represents it all. Okay? Now, not everywhere, but in a vast majority of cultures, somewhere, you will find something that's represented in a circle, and if you get someone to tell you about it, they're going to put it something like the same kind of way. Okay? And so, go ahead to the next one, Vernon. Such as here, okay? Now, this is a symbol from traditional faith, and yet, the two rings in the middle, does anybody know what those rings represent? Right, it's for marriage. Now, how many of you have heard more than once in a marriage ceremony that when they get to the rings, they say, what do they say about the rings? It has no beginning and no end. Encompasses everything. Okay? And so you see where there's a universal understanding of what that symbol represents. And so when you remember that we have these kinds of things in common, it's a little easier to be among many different kinds of people and say, where do we find that which unifies us? Because if we can find the things that unify us, then we can work through more of where we find our differences. So go ahead to the next symbol. Now this is another universal symbol that probably everyone is familiar with. So what do we call that? That's the yin and the yang. Now this is one of my favorite symbols, and I always turn that puppy on its side because on its side it also represents how life is continually going up and down. We're up and then we're down. Or that's the way we put it. Okay. Now, one of the ways that my original minister, Reverend Jexie Jennings, talks about that is that as we grow in consciousness, the highs get higher and the lows also get higher. So when we see that, it doesn't have to mean that just because there's a dip in the wave that something bad has happened. It's a rhythm, okay? Our heartbeats go up, and if you put your heartbeat on a scope, the scope's going to go up and down. It's just like that. Everything in life is rolling with a rhythm. Okay, now, here's the thing about how we get more comfortable with focusing on our unity, and then we say, okay, but what about the things that we actually don't agree with? What do we do about that? We can't just, put it in a box and say that doesn't matter, because obviously it does matter, okay? So here's the thing about what the yin-yang has to teach us, is that notice that if you're having an all-good day, then a lot of times it's like, whoa, if it gets too good, then what are we waiting for? We're waiting for the other shoe to drop, okay? So the little circle in the middle of the white represents that idea that we have that the other shoe's likely to drop, okay? And if we're too attached to needing to have everything be the way we want it, we need everything to be good, then that little circle, that little shoe dropping can like ruin our day, right? But it's not necessary, because what's true in spirit, that all-encompassing circle, the all is everything in potential, okay? Who knows? It's like I stand before the altar of the Lord on a regular basis and I say, why does there have to be so much mystery? Why does there have to be so much that I do not understand? I don't know. God hasn't told me that yet. But what I do know is no matter what it looks like, no matter what we think of it or how it strikes us, or is it good, bad, or indifferent on a human level, it's within the all in potential, okay? And what I figured out as a practicing metaphysician, which for those of you who don't know me, I've been a practitioner for 30 years, is that if we are willing to honor the potentials in what we do not understand, they don't have to show up and prove them to us. Because what's true in spirit, everything has a right in potential, because God is all there is. And whatever the potential is, and then if we say, well, we don't want murder and all these kind of crazy things to happen, okay? But just because we don't want it to happen, does that stop them? They prove themselves out in potential all the time. In my own life, I have learned that if I look at a potential that I do not want to prove itself out to me, I say, namaste, to the potential. And that doesn't mean that when it happens, I think it's a good thing. I'm just talking about coming down to that place where it is all one and there is no separation. And I simply say, you know what? Under the right conditions, I know you would prove yourself out to me. You clearly have a right to exist because you do. And I don't have room to have an argument with that. So, namaste. And the thing is that by being willing to know that that little potential for something bad to happen is going to be there in potential, then it doesn't have to show up, because I'm not expecting it to be perfect in potential. I'm like, good, fine, something could happen. So the same is true on the other side. When we're in the depths of despair and the things that we're challenged by, then if we know, because that's the silver lining, okay? You go through the dark night of the soul, and everybody knows in the dark night of the soul there's going to be a silver lining. The same thing is true. When we know that that balance is a part of what allows unity to express multiplicity, then it's easier to make peace with it. So now we're ready to move to the next slide. So our task must be to free ourselves from the prison of the delusion that, you know, you can't escape what is difficult and you can't escape that we want to be unified but we're not. By widening our circles of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. Now, for anyone who was here last week, this is a carryover from Karen Rader's talk last week about being a bridge. And as you see here, there's a circle made of many different hands, and this is how we all come together. And I want to, as a closing piece to this presentation, I'm going to be sharing with you now a living expression of the many, many circles of life. And so we talked about like expressing symbolically, and you also have the option to express with your whole body, your honoring, and this is something that the Native American Indians do. And I have something I could read here, but I may not do that because I want you to just be able to enjoy this. How many of you are familiar with a Native American hoop dance? Has anyone ever heard of that before? Okay, you have. So I'll just encapsulate it. They look like, the hoops that they use, honest to God, they look like hula hoops, okay? But it's an actual spiritual sacred ceremony that they do when the nations gather. One of the things they do is the hoop dance. And the hoop dance, you'll see, we're going to do about 3 minutes. This man that you'll see, his name is Nakota Lawrence, and he is currently the 9-time world champion at hoop dancing. And what they do is during the hoop dance, every move he makes, he does it really fast, so you're not going to be able to catch it all, and I will be putting the link up, okay? But every move he makes has a meaning, and every hoop he uses has a meaning, and you'll see he'll go through and he becomes a buffalo and he becomes a butterfly, and then I'm not going to tell you the ending because it's too totally awesome. So go ahead, Vernon, play the video. There's the buffalo. Here comes the eagle. And there's the entire world. So, just in wrapping up, the things that I would like to leave you with to think about is possibly walking through the world with a little bit of a fresh perspective on things maybe you see all the time, because it's how we allow those things to impact us internally and then what we choose to express externally for it. And the next time you find yourself wanting to catch a judgment, where if you ask yourself, do I really need to have an opinion about that right now? And if the answer to that question is no, simply say, Namaste, I am at peace with you. I don't agree, but that doesn't mean I have to be coming up against you like this. Okay? And then also, there from last week, there was some emphasis on blessing, and we're going to do a little bit more with that. And as we do, I just want to let you know, Karen Rader had a beautiful handout that she left. And so when you have more time, you can not only do Namaste going through your day, but also some ideas about literally just blessing everything, particularly, if you practice blessing the things that have grated against you, the dynamics of how that works inside will change. And as what's going on for you inside changes, it will transform your experience of your world. And with that, I will say that the presentation portion of this is complete, and I will turn it over to Miss Pat.
Gordon.
Can I ask a question in regards to,
Yes.
in regards to maybe like a personal practice, like a daily personal practice or something like that, would you describe honoring as a separate thing from gratitude?
I think they're co-related, and if when you're asking that question, it feels distinct right now, just allow yourself to start in that place. But I think as you move to work with it more consciously, work with them both more consciously, you will see where they merge. But
Well, I mean, I feel like they are, because
yeah,
I try to do things every day to where I don't receive credit. Like I might pick up trash in a parking lot or do something that benefits society that I don't get recognition for. But I feel like honoring would be good to do as a form of prayer for other people or other things, but just honor them as opposed to asking for something for them in a way to
Right.
increase my vibration. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know gratitude's kind of like the best
Yes.
way to do that, so I thought honoring that might be a neat
So,
way to make
yes.
it my own personal practice.
I would say that, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And thank you for asking.
Since I forgot to ring the bowl this morning when I read, I'm going to do it right now before meditation. Following the thought of honoring people, we're going to do a short, abbreviated metta meditation. And if you've ever been in my meditations where I've done this, you know we bring up several images. Metta means loving kindness. And so what we do, we're going to do here 3 different images. I'm going to suggest what they are, and you will call them up in your mind. I will say a few words, and then I will say a couple of 4 lines about each one that you can repeat. I'll give you space between each one so that you can repeat them either to yourself or out loud as you wish. So relax where you are. Take a few deep breaths and release it. And knowing there is one God and one life, and that life is our life now. I ask you to call up in your mind, as if you were looking at an image on your phone, I ask you to call up first an image of yourself as a toddler, a baby, teenager, young person, an image today. But see that image clearly in your mind and wrap it with loving kindness, peace, serenity, forgiveness, and say these words. May you be happy and healthy. May you be abundant. May you be safe and free. And may you live with ease and grace. The next image I ask you to call up is a group, and it's the group that comprises our city and includes our Louisville Center for Spiritual Living. Think of that group and the diversity of it, the way we interact with one another, the people we know and the people we don't know, and surround that large group with peace and love, tolerance, understanding, and say these words. May you be happy and healthy. May you be abundant. May you be safe and free. And may you live with ease and grace. And as you release that image, call up an even larger group. The group that is beings everywhere. Not only our city, our state, our country, but all countries. Every country, home, and heart. And some of those hearts living in chaos and war, living as refugees, and some happy, joyful. These beings, wherever they are, some just rising in the morning, some just going to sleep, are more like us than we even realize. And look at this image, huge though it is, and surround it with peace and freedom, love, understanding, tolerance, kindness, joy, and hope. And say these words. May you be happy and healthy. May you be abundant. May you be safe and free. And may you live with ease and grace. And in closing, we express our gratitude for knowing these thoughts and the truth of them, and for the ability to share them and know they are received. And we lift these words into a law that takes them automatically and impartially and makes them evident for all to see. and so it is. Amen.
We are holy, we are holy, just the way we are. We are holy, we are holy, like the shining stars. We are made, we were made, the one you never so loved. Perfect expression, always enough. We are holy, we are holy, just the way we are. We are holy, we are holy, just the way we are. We are holy, we are holy, like the shining stars. We are made, we are made, the one you never so loved. Perfect expression, always enough. We are holy, we are holy, just the way we are.
It's time for our offering. If you would like to use a credit card for a donation, we have a square machine in the back. And if you're joining us online, you can go to lcslonline.org and donate there if you would like. And we appreciate everything that we are given in order to share with you these beautiful thoughts and this philosophy. Join me in saying our August prosperity affirmation. From far and near, my good comes to me through the unfailing supply of spirit, and I am always ready and grateful to receive. Yes.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, everybody. So it occurs to me to follow after the great master who showed the way by multiplying 2 fish and 2 loaves and fed the masses. I am grateful, and I know right now that the offerings here are multiplied beyond imagining to meet that which they are intended for, which is good and more good for our center community, for the larger Louisville and Kentuckiana community, and for all the people and all the beings and all the life of Mother Earth. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. Now we have the opportunity to share in affirmative prayer for all of the prayer requests that have made it into the box and all of the prayer requests that are in our field for whomever and however they might be. Dropping back to the beginning, which is that point of stillness, where there is no separation, and all is in potential. All is well. I recognize it as the one that is only love, sustained by a pristine law that never misses, that is always expressing at the level of the highest possible good and truth, because that is the nature of life. Expansion, manifestation. And in this moment, I realize that for every request expressed, that it is done even before it is asked, as we are here as vessels of pure spirit, to open ourselves to receive and to give from this place of knowing that the good is at hand. Thank you, thank you, thank you, presence of Spirit. I release it into the law, and so I let it be, and so it is. And now, rise and join us for our closing song, Let There Be Peace on Earth. And in whatever way works for you, let's just do a little connection. Let's have some eye contact, and if you're connecting with yourself in the mirror, honoring. Now there is peace. And there's also donuts in the back. Donuts have manifested while we were... It's a beautiful thing.